questions to the mayor from the council?
I have one.
Yeah,
Yes.
Councilman Murphy.
Pertaining to Fair Creek Reservoir.
Yes.
I guess you said an area that's off limits to fishing. What area is that?
It is the area that is on the east side of the reservoir. It's prior to the, I believe it's prior to the
Sailboat Club.
Sailboat Club. Thank you, Sam. And we've had complaints apparently from the adjacent property owners about things that have gone on in that area. The city has access to 150 feet from the water up to the other properties. So some of the property owners have made complaints. So between that issue and then the parking lot has deteriorated to the point that it can't be used. And so we've made the decision to not allow access to the area so we can resolve the parking issue and have an opportunity to address each of the property owners, which there aren't very many there, to find out if it's just complaints of one individual or if it's an ongoing problem of the issues they're having. It's still accessible by boat, but it's just right now not going to be accessible to the public just for them to walk around that area.
So basically you're talking about, if I'm correct, with a sailboat, where they park their sailboats, you have that road, and you can go up underneath that road and go back up in that cove. Are you talking about that cove that's back up in there that you can't fish on that bank? I know it's a big log cabin house that's built up on that hill.
Yes, that area there.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it, yes.
Is there any other park, excuse me, go ahead.
See, that's, you know, I know people have fished that area for 40 years, and I haven't heard anybody complaining, because I fish that area myself. It's a good fishing back up in there.
Oh, and I'm sure it is. And I want to reiterate to everyone, we have received numerous calls. I've received calls. I've been shocked at how many people who've called who aren't residents of Muncie. They're from other counties calling and complaining. That in order to get this facility so that it's self-sustaining and financially independent from the taxpayers, we're going to have to start addressing some of the concerns. You know, enforcing the fact that we cannot sublet the piers. I mean, you'd be shocked at the people who call and complain to me that they can't sell their pontoon because I won't let them sell their pier space. And so we've gone through that. The question comes up now, are we going to put more money into the parking lot so that we can have it accessible and have it an area that is easy for people to get around, and if there's an issue to get to fishermen? Or do we not put money there? And we've asked DNR to come in and inspect the pond that's above the parking area to find out if there's a problem with the pond, if that's what's caused the drainage issue that's torn up the parking area. But I can't recommend redoing the parking area if there's a problem, because it will come back again. And I don't think we want to spend what few dollars we have in fixing something that either is not repairable or maybe it's someone else's fault. And so it just is going to take some time to do that, and I did not think, nor I think the park superintendent and probably the board, if it was run by the board, I'm not sure, but to say for 30 days, let's close this off, let's talk to the neighbors, let's get DNR to do an assessment of the parking lot and the pond and everything else that's around it, and then we at that time can decide how we move forward.
I can understand you talking about the parking lot, but like I said, if I'm correct, there's another parking lot around the other side of the street.
I haven't had time to go out there and look at this particular
I know that
parking
area.
area.
That's where I fished that area quite a bit. I know you can drive the area that you're talking about. I think you come off the street and you got to go down a steep hill and all that stuff. But then on the other side, there's also a parking area. And my concern, like I said, I didn't know nothing about this until the gentleman gave me a call and told me that this was done at a park board meeting. And so I called around, and I guess it was true. But my main concern, if you make that area off limits to parking, people could still park on the other side of the street where it's good parking and still walk across the street and walk along that bank and do bank fishing.
And that's a possibility, but the problem we have is that's a county road that now people are going across there for parking. And for safety consideration, I agree that you leave the access alone for 30 days, give us an opportunity to assess the area. It's not as if there isn't fishing throughout the rest of the reservoir. I mean, I know it's not where people have always fished before, but this is not permanent. It's for us to assess the situation, make sure that it is safe for everyone that wants to use that area, and that there are other issues going on that we're not aware of. Every day we come up with new problems out the reservoir, and I shared with Sam this morning. I mean, there are moments where I'm just to the point of saying, you know, it's just costing us money, and the time that we have had to invest since we started investing what's going on at the reservoir has been unbelievable. And I'm to the point, I'm not sure if the taxpayers are getting their money's worth.
You know, I kind of different on that, but like I said, the problem I'm having is that area that you're making fishing off limits to.
Temporarily.
Temporarily, or I don't know what the park board did, you know, to be honest with you, is that when the wind is high, when that wind is blowing out there, that's one of the areas that you can actually go fish, back behind them coves and stuff. And like I said before, there's some good fishing back there. And there's parking that's available on the other side of the street that people can just, you know, park the car on the other side of the street, just walk across that road and go walk down that bank and fish. And that's why I can understand why they would make that area off limits to fishing. I can see not parking, you can't park your vehicles on the parking lot at that specific spot that you're talking about. But just to make that whole area off limits to fish, bank fishing, I don't think that's fair.
But it's still accessible by boat. There's still areas you can fish off the reservoir, and we'll probably just have to agree to disagree at this point, which I've had to do with many people regarding other things that come up.
But you know, like, I'm one of those fortunate ones. I have a boat, but everybody
And I
in the
understand
community
that,
doesn't have a boat to fish in.
But there are other fishing areas, I believe, at the reservoir.
But yeah, but you're not listening to what I'm saying, though.
Well, I know
If you go-
it must be
do
prime
you fish?
fishing, and
I
I've
mean,
not been out there for prime fishing,
Okay,
so.
when that wind is blowing out there, it's hard to fish in that open area. It's just too windy. So people go in them coves to fish, including people that have boats. Because if you have a boat, you got that big body of water, and that wind is blowing, you can't stay in. I know that for a fact. I've been out there before.
Well, as I tried to explain to people too, this is just temporary for us to try to resolve the issue. We may be looking at a situation at the end of the year that we may decide we no longer want to finance it, and that there may not be a reservoir for any of us to have access to. And that's what I'm trying to make clear to people, that we need to spend our dollars as wisely as possible. You know, I don't want a safety issue as far as someone going across the street or getting hurt, or someone trying to park in the parking lot, or, you know, if there's an issue with this pond that's up above the parking lot, if something breaking loose with it. I don't know what the neighbors' concerns are. I think we owe that to the neighbors to be good neighbors and to find out what the concerns are. We can't monitor the area because you can only get to it by foot. You know, we've got a whole area out there to have to monitor, and we're trying to cut back on the expenses as much as we can, because I don't want to see it. I don't want to make that request and we shut the reservoir down and we just don't operate it anymore. But when we're looking at losing $7 million in a 2-year period, you know, $150,000 is going to look pretty good going someplace else and not going out to the reservoir.
Okay. And I'd just like to make this comment, and you know, like I said, there's nothing wrong to disagree with one another. Say you're concerned about safety issues. I tell you, that area that you're talking about making off limits to fishing, I think that's one of your safer areas compared to fishing off those rocks around the bridges and stuff. Because I've seen several individuals when those rocks get wet, slip and fall around those bridge areas where crappies, when the crappies start coming in, you get hundreds of people that fish around those bridges trying to catch those crappies. But like I said, to me, that's the more dangerous area to fish than that area that you're making off limits to bank fishing.
And, I mean, and I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but, I mean, are we really having a major impact on the community by not allowing fishing out there access for 30 days on banks?
If that's all we're talking about.
I mean, that's quite honestly, it's just time for us to clear out the area, have an assessment of the neighbors, have an assessment of the parking lot, have an assessment of the pond, so we can come back together and figure out what's going on, and then do whatever we have to do at that point forward. There's no intent here for this to be permanent. That is 150 feet that we have access to all the way around there. We're trying to be good neighbors, we're trying to be good stewards, and it's temporary. And I know that fishing season, you know, crappie come in a certain time, they go away, but this is a temporary, you know, 5 years from now, closing that area for 30 days, I don't think it's going to have a huge impact on our community.
Yeah, you're right. You just picked a bad time to do it, because
Believe me,
and people want to go with the fish.
if I got to pick the perfect time for everything, we'd all be in a much better place.
I'll make a comment, because I don't